Desperado then realized he was right. It was what Queen made him feel. Although a soldier on warship was no match to Queen and did not bring him the same pressure, the feeling was the same. How could this person make me feel this way? It is impossible. He had learned that elsewhere. Maybe this guy is connected to Queen somehow. Desperado thought to himself skeptically. When he thought about it, he felt it was impossible. Queen was an orphan raised by Huang Fuxian Cheng. Since a soldier on warship said he was not from Ares Martial Hall, how was it possible that he was connected to Queen? Desperado was trying to confirm this, so he defeated Han Sen with one blow, and sent Han Sen another invite. Why did Desperado defeat Han Sen? Because when trying to maintain his fitness level around 30, he was trapped in the corner by Han Sen. If he did not use his true strength, he would lose. Ready to fight again, Desperado again chose to keep his fitness around 30. He was paying attention to Han Sen's every move and was able to determine Han Sen was indeed using Queen's skills. Trying to fight Han Sen with a fitness level around 30, Desperado was basically fighting Queen of a weaker version, which allowed Desperado to observe the kiting skills better. Desperado thought it might help him in the future when he sparred with Queen. With such thoughts, Desperado fought Han Sen repeatedly. However, as long as he kept his fitness level the same as Han Sen, he would always be pushed into a corner. There was simply no way he could win. All he could do was to rely on his fitness. Desperado was upset about this. He was a fast learner himself, but he was unable to learn the kiting skills no matter what. There was a simple explanation for that. As long as one knew the rules, one could play Go. However, not everyone could become a master. Although Desperado was good at mimicking other people's skills, calculation and strategy could not be obtained simply by mimicking. One had to think for oneself. Han Sen was a beginner himself, and was not even close to Queen's level. However, he could beat Desperado, who had never tapped into this field before, easily. I should go. See you next time. Han Sen left Gladiator at mealtime. He felt like he had gained a lot. In the beginning, Desperado was trying to copy him. But later, Desperado had to use many techniques he had not seen before to cope with kiting skills. At the agreed time, Han Sen went to meet Rainbowman and gasped, "It's you." Rainbowman had the same reaction and stared his eyes wide. Rainbowman turned out to be Su Zio Kiao. Damn it, you're Rainbowman. Han Sen looked Su Zio Kiao up and down, wondering if he was disseminating fake news for money. Su Zio Kiao chuckled and said, I just wanted to make some money and didn't expect to meet you. So you were lying about the phoenix-like creature? Han Sen asked in disappointment. Of course not. When have I ever lied? All right, maybe I have, but I can swear on my dick this time that I have seen that creature, Su Zio Kiao said excitedly. Okay, how much is it? Take me with you, said Han Sen. How can I ever ask you for money? Just follow me there. But I have already collected money from other people, so we will need to take them as well, said Su Zio Kiao. Most of the people that Su Zio Kiao had appointment with were not from Steel Armor Shelter. The few from Steel Armor Shelter all knew Han Sen and said hi. Other guys did not say hi to Han Sen and obviously did not know him. Han Sen, I heard that your archery skills are excellent. Could you show us? When they were having a rest, the guys from Steel Armor Shelter asked Han Sen to perform archery skills. Han Sen did not say anything, but Su Zio Kiao grinned and said, I'm not bragging for Sen. In terms of archery, in First God's Sanctuary, no one is Sen's match. That is a daring claim, said the guy in golden armor coldly. I only know two people in Steel Armor Shelter. One is Dollar, who beat Idongmu with one strike, and the other is the former head of Steel Armor Gang, Qin Xuan. Everyone else in the shelter is a nobody. Han Sen smiled indifferently and did not pay him mind. Although the guy in golden armor thought highly of himself, in Han Sen's eyes, the guy was not even worth his anger. The guy looked like he had great fitness, but judging from his behaviors, he was not someone serious about practicing martial arts. We don't know who Han Sen is, but Mr. Yu is the strongest person in First God's Sanctuary. Quite a talker. Unfortunately, none of us is blind. Last year we had heard no Mr. Yu among the chosen, said Su Zio Kiao with his lips curled. The hunk sneered. Mr. Yu is an evolver with all his Geno points maxed out. Now do you still disagree with me? Those who were from Steel Armor Shelter looked to the guy in golden armor, shocked. They did not expect him to be an evolver with all his Geno points maxed out. Normally speaking, one could choose to stay in First God's Sanctuary for a while after becoming an evolver. When one teleported out of God's Sanctuary and entered again, one would then be sent to Second God's Sanctuary. However, as long as one did not leave the shelter, one could stay in First God's Sanctuary as an evolver. Not many people would do that, because nothing in First God's Sanctuary was not meaningful to an evolver. After traveling for 6 days, all they could see was dunes. Everyone in Mr. Yu's group was arrogant. Although the people from Steel Armor Shelter were pissed, they chose to be silent since Mr. Yu was an evolver. There, Suzayo Kiao said, pointing at a dune far away. Everyone looked to their direction and saw a huge tree standing on top of the dune. There really is a huge tree in the desert. Mr. Yu's eyes lit up. He did not go to Second God's Sanctuary after evolving because he wanted to take advantage of his physique and kill some sacred blood creatures for money. If he could kill a rare sacred blood creature, it would be even better. However, sacred blood creatures were not that easy to be found, and he did not want to waste too much time in First God's Sanctuary. Therefore, he naturally did not want to return empty-handed from the trip to Devil Desert. Where is the creature? Mr. Yu asked Suzayo Kiao. He did not take all these men here just to see the tree. I only know that it went in that direction into the desert. As for where it went, I have no idea. Suzayo Kiao pointed in the direction and said, "Lead the way," Mr. Yu commanded. "Our contract is quite clear. I am only responsible for taking you to see the tree. You will have to find the creature yourself." Suzayo Kiao frowned and said, "Cut the crap. Lead the way as we have asked." A follower of Mr. Yu exclaimed. Suzayo Kiao looked to Hansen, and Hansen said to Mr. Yu, since you have signed a contract and my friend has fulfilled his duty, please go there yourselves. Are you talking to me?" Mr. Yu looked at Hansen with obvious contempt. "I don't think there is a second Mr. Yu," said Hansen casually. "Since you know there is no other Mr. Yu here, you should know who the boss is," said Mr. Yu coldly. "Now that I do not know," said Hansen, squinting his eyes. "If you don't know who the boss is, at least you should know who the strongest person is," a follower of Mr. Yu said coldly. "I know who the strongest person is, but that person is not Mr. Yu," said Hansen casually. "Not Mr. Yu. You don't mean yourself." Other followers laughed. "Yes, that's what I meant." Hansen nodded seriously. "You must be out of your mind. You think you can be compared to an evolver who has maxed out on his sacred Geno points." They looked at Hansen as if they were looking at an idiot. "Not all evolvers are good," said Hansen casually. Then he turned to Suzayo Kiao and said, "Since the contract is fulfilled, we should leave now. Let me show you whether an evolver is good or not." Mr. Yu urged his mount to charge Hansen. Hansen. Suzayo Kiao suddenly became pale. If Mr. Yu were to attack Hansen, there was no way Hansen could beat an evolver. Hansen sat still on the three-eyed beast. He had already sold the Tornado Wolf, and Meowth was not the best ride, which was why Hansen had been riding Three-Eyed Beast on this trip. Mr. Yu's was holding a beast soul sword, which looked like a sacred blood beast soul. Hansen squinted his eyes at Mr. Yu's sword, which was exactly what he needed at this point. Mr. Yu rushed to Hansen, cutting his silver sword at Hansen's neck like a lightning bolt. Those with Mr. Yu did not move. It seemed they were enjoying the show. Mr. Yu was an evolver, so there was no one who could threaten him in First God's Sanctuary. Shortly, everyone opened their eyes wide. As the sword was about to cut Hansen's neck, Hansen suddenly reached out a hand and clipped the sword with 2 fingers. Everyone thought Hansen was crazy. No one should be able to clip an incoming sword with 2 fingers, especially when it was an evolver who was holding the sword. Mr. Yu uses more force than usual, trying to kill Hansen directly. The moment the sword touched Hansen's fingers, it seemed that Hansen's entire body became weightless. He attached himself to the sword and moved along with the sword wherever it went as if he was a fallen leaf. Feeling shocked, Mr. Yu took the sword back and threw a punch at Hansen, who had approached him with the sword. Hansen hit Mr. Yu's fist, jumped up and landed behind Mr. Yu, his skeleton's dagger on Mr. Yu's neck. "Do you want to live or die?" Hansen moved the dagger forward slightly with a smile. The sharp blade immediately cut the skin of Mr. Yu's neck, a drop of blood gliding down the dagger. "What should I do for you if I want to live?" Mr. Yu became pale, and none in his group dared to move. "I am a fair person and could offer you an opportunity to correct yourself. However, if I let you go just like this, I'm afraid you will not learn your lesson. So, a sword for your life, the one you're holding right now," said Hansen. "No way. My dad is the CEO of Dongcheng. If you lay a hand on me, my dad will kill your entire family," yelled Mr. Yu fiercely. Hansen almost burst out laughing. "All right, when you go to hell, remember to appear in your dad's dream and tell him that it was Hansen who killed you." Hansen pushed the skeleton dagger deeper into Mr. Yu's skin. "No, you can have it," Mr. Yu exclaimed, almost scared to death. "This is your last chance. When I count to 3, if the sword is not in my hand, you can keep it with you in hell." Hansen started to count. 1, 2. Mr. Yu did not even dare to bargain and quickly transferred the beast's soul sword to Hansen. Do not claim to be an evolver next time, so that you will not lose face for all evolvers. Han Sen took back the sword and the skeleton's daggers and returned to the back of his mutant three-eyed beast. Once Mr. Yu gained his freedom again, he quickly summoned a beast soul knife and led his followers to attack Han Sen. Go back, said Han Sen casually. He had foreseen this outcome and quickly rushed to the group of people. Mr. Yu did not want to recognize the fact that he was weaker than Han Sen. I should not have lost, thought Mr. Yu. In addition, Mr. Yu's had a lot of good men on his team, so he believed he must be able to kill Han Sen this time and avenge himself. However, when Han Sen was in the middle of them, Mr. Yu started to regret, because he found that the group were not a help, but a burden. Han Sen walked casually among them, and for some reason, they could more easily hurt their teammates than Han Sen. Every time Han Sen brandished the skeleton's daggers, an injury would be made. Momentarily, 6 persons were hurt in the group. Su Xiaoqiao was dumbfounded. The way Han Sen was doing it made him wonder who the evolver was. Mr. Yu was terrified. He could not describe the feeling he had. Obviously, Han Sen was the one who was besieged. However, it felt like Han Sen was actually behind the siege. Mr. Yu did not even have any chance to attack Han Sen. Every time he tried to make a move, he would be blocked by one of his own people. Someone who had not really practiced martial arts could not tell how incredible kiting skills were. In the eyes of Han Sen, people like this could not give him any pressure no matter how many they were. Get lost, Mr. Yu exclaimed when he found there was no chance to attack Han Sen. Han Sen did not chase after the rest of the group. When they had left, a blue lightning bolt left Han Sen's hand. A mutant ghost butterfly boomerang flew toward Mr. Yu, who was throwing himself at Han Sen. Mr. Yu tried to cut the boomerang in half, but when his weapon was about to touch the boomerang, it quickly made a weird turn and disappeared in front of his eyes. Bang! Blue flames exploded on Mr. Yu's chest, making him fall from his mount and roll around on the ground. When he looked up, he found that Han Sen was squatting in front of him, a skeleton's dagger on his neck. Mr. Yu, you're such a kind person. I know you must want to help the poor and give me more sacred blood beast souls for free. Now, this time, how many do you plan to give me? Han Sen patted Mr. Yu's face with the other dagger. Mr. Yu wanted to slap himself for messing with this guy. Why on earth did he do that? He had 2 sacred blood beast souls in total and one was gone already. Now he had to give the other one away. Han Sen, why didn't you kill that animal? Su Xiaoqiao was excited, but puzzled at the same time. In his eyes, Han Sen had every opportunity to kill everyone in that team. Who would scout for us if I killed them? Han Sen grinned. Mr. Yu and his team were there for that creature. If that creature was a super creature for real, the smart thing would be to let the team scout for them, instead of taking the risks. When it came to a super creature, Han Sen would never easily take the risks. It would be best if he could determine how strong the creature was before he decided on how to act. After running for a few miles, Su Xiaoqiao saw a group of people fighting a creature from afar. It was barely fighting, but more like slaughtering by the creature. A humongous golden firebird swept its wings across the group of people. Those touched by the wings were all burning. Once caught the golden flames, no matter how they tried, they could not put out the fire. Very soon, they were all turned into charcoal. Mr. Yu was the fastest on his mount. The rest of the group was all carbonized by the birds. Even Mr. Yu was not able to escape. He only bought himself some time before the bird ran after him like a golden light. Feeling the heat behind him, Mr. Yu wanted to fight for his life. He jumped from his mount and wheeled his weapon toward the creature's head. Although this weapon was not a sacred blood beast soul, it was a strong weapon and he made a great strike. However, the creature did not even dodge, but let the weapon hit itself. What happened next shocked Han Sen. The knife went through the bird's head as if it had cut real flames. The creature was not hurt at all. The creature's body passed Mr. Yu, who was then turned into a ball of flame. All he could do was to scream before being burned into charcoal. Super creature. It is definitely a super creature. Han Sen was both shocked and pleased. He was happy that he found a super creature eventually. However, this one seemed to be even stronger than the turtle. After everybody was burned into charcoal by the bird, it tweeted and flew toward the top of a high mountain. Although the mountain was located in the desert, it was magnificent. The top of the mountain was still covered in snow. Han Sen wondered why a firebird would choose such a place to rest. After the bird had left, Su Xiaoqiao and Han Sen approached the dead bodies of the group of people. Watching the looks of the dead, they both felt a chill. Like the tree, their bodies were still intact, but turned into charcoal. It was horrific and sickening to look at. You have missed the trial for several days. You're lucky that Jingjia was the main subjects. Otherwise, Professor Yan would never let you off the hook, said Qin Jiming, who had been in charge of Han Sen's case. Han Sen watched Jing Jia was running up and down in a closed field and asked curiously, "What is this? I have never seen it before." It is a recently built model called Sprint. The aim was to obtain the comprehensive data of a person under extreme conditions. You can also give the shot. Qin Jiming suddenly remembered something and asked Han Sen, "Did you do the test I gave you last time? You should give me the data back. I haven't had time yet." Han Sen suddenly remembered the solution and device, which he had not been able to use yet. "Do it when you have time," Qin Jiming did not insist. After all, Han Sen was only the unofficial subject, while Jing Jia's data was the key. After coming out of Sprint, Jing Jia was covered in sweat. It looked like he had been through hell. "Han Sen, come and try this." Jing Jia saw Han Sen, quickly pulled him into Sprint and closed the door. "At least tell me how to use this." Han Sen saw different obstacles and said with a wry smile, "There were many metal walls facing different directions. Some were even up in the air. Do you see the white zones on the metal walls? You have to step on the white zones to pass all the walls. If you step out of the white zones, you would get a shock and have to start over again. In order to pass, you have to pass all the metal walls to reach the finishing line without getting shocked." Qin Jiming explained the rules to Han Sen through a microphone. "Doesn't seem that hard," said Han Sen, glancing at the white zones. Although the white zones were only 1 foot wide each, it was wide enough for Han Sen. However, when Han Sen started the test, he found that he was terribly wrong. The metal walls and white zones were designed specifically to increase the challenge. The walls were not flat, but skewed in different angles. Some were even upside down. So, he had to jump continuously and could take no break. In addition, he also needed to use all kinds of positions. Almost all the muscles must be motivated in order to finish the task. It truly was a scientific design. If he was not fast enough or flexible enough, there was no way he could shift his moves in time to step on the next metal wall. It was a simple test, but the challenge was tremendous. With Han Sen's physique, he even felt some difficulties. Han Sen had only passed the easiest mode of Sprint. By adjusting and adding the metal walls, the difficulty could be further improved. In addition, gravity inside the device could also be increased. From level I to level X, Han Sen had only passed level I, which was the easiest among them all. Sprint is much better than an ordinary gravity trainer. It must be great for me to practice overload. Since Han Sen discovered this interesting device, he had come to the lab more and more often. He mainly came to the lab to use Sprint and was not interested in other tests. He always waited for the researchers to leave the lab before he started to use Sprint to train himself. As Han Sen had expected, Sprint was not only harder than a gravity trainer, it was also more effective and comprehensive when it came to training his entire body. In addition to training, Han Sen also needed to go to lectures. Originally, he thought his performance would allow him to become a major in the military upon graduation. But because he had missed school for a long time, he did not get good grades in many courses and had to double his efforts so that he could still become a major. Fortunately, he had won a championship in the archery tournament for the school, and Professor Yan had also promised him extra credits. If he could be top 3 in his other 2 courses, he believed he would still become a major. Han Sen had also been studying how to kill the phoenix-like creature. However, he could not come up with a good solution at the time being, so he had to give up the thoughts for the moment. When he saw the creature, he had used the Fairy Queen to observe how it killed Mr. Yu. Based on what he saw, the creature was not entirely made of fire. Within its body, there was still a solid core, and in order to kill it, he must directly attack its core wrapped in flames. However, the bird's flame was untouchable, and normal weapons could not even reach its core, not even a long one like a spear. The only feasible way to attack it was to shoot an arrow into its body. However, Han Sen did not even have a sacred blood beast soul arrow. There was no way he could hit the super creature, so he had to give up temporarily. A few months had passed in the blink of an eye. With overload, Han Sen's fitness index had reached 25. With heresy mantra also used, his fitness index was over 30, higher than an evolver with all the Geno points maxed out. It is time I try to kill a super creature, Han Sen decided. His fitness index had reached 30 at this point, which was about the limit of First God's Sanctuary. It would be hard for him to improve any further. In addition, he had the sacred blood sword from Mr. Yu. He almost had everything ready at this point. All he needed was a super creature as his target. As for the firebird, Han Sen would not even consider it without a proper arrow. Before Han Sen went to hunt, he took the semi-annual assessment. Thanks to his efforts, he had got the highest score on campus, earning him a lot of credits. To Han Sen's joy, the cloud beast that he had been feeding for a year had become a super creature as he had estimated. Looking at the cloud beast, Han Sen clenched the skeleton's dagger in his hand and whispered, "Heaven, Buddha, God of Fortune. Lady Luck, please give me a super beast soul. Krek. Hansen killed the super cloud beast and heard the voice in his head. Super creature cloud beast killed. No beast soul gained. Life essence available. Meat inedible. The voice, the body of the cloud beast dissolved, and a piece of life essence fell on the floor exactly like last time. Damn it, cursed Hansen with his teeth gritted. Again, he did not get the beast's soul. It would take him a year to have another chance. After returning home, Luo Sulen was not as excited as Hansen thought she would be. It seemed something had occupied her mind. Mom, has something happened? Hansen asked, worried. You're a grown man now. I suppose I should give you something your father left behind. Luo Sulen hesitated for a while, retrieved a small box from the closet, and placed it in front of Hansen. Hansen looked at the alloy box in front of him in surprise. He remembered that his dad died in an aircraft accident, and people did not even find his body, so how was it possible that he had left something behind? Seeing that Hansen was puzzled, Luo Sulen said, your dad gave this to me 2 days before he had the accident. He said that it might be useful to you someday. You were too young, so I did not show you this. Now that you've grown up and know right from wrong, it's time that I give it to you. Does it have anything to do with Dad's death? Hansen's heart leapt. Luo Sulen shook her head and said, I don't know if that is the case. I feel like someone like your dad would not leave this for no reason. And it was as if he knew something was wrong at that point. Hansen bit his lip and slowly opened the box. He was too young when his father died, but as he grew older, many things about the incident seemed odd. Their family business was prospering under his father's management, but it was merely a workshop compared to Starry Group. The family business did not even own their own mines. Why would a giant company like Starry Group be interested in such a small business? If Dad was murdered by them, what was in it for Starry Group to go through such trouble and murder his dad? Hansen was puzzled by many details, but because he was too young, he did not remember everything and could not tell what was wrong. Hansen opened the box. There were 3 items in it, a metal chip that looked like a work permit, a small diary book, and a crystal pendant hanging on a red cord. Hansen first took up the metal chip, which was indeed a work permit. Black characters were imprinted on the white chip. Han Jingjai, Unit 7, Secret Service, AX 9587125558. Hansen read the characters to himself and felt surprised. The name Han Jingjai was familiar to Hansen. It was the name of Hansen's great-grandpa. About his great-grandpa, all Hansen knew was his name. Apart from this name, Hansen knew nothing about the man. Seeing the work permit, Hansen learned that his great-grandpa used to work for a governmental organization in the Alliance. But it looks like he was just an ordinary staff member. Putting down the work permit, Hansen took up the crystal pendant. It was quite small and made of red crystal. It looks like a cat or fox with its head and tail connected. Its tail was too big for a cat, but its face was a cat's face. It felt like a piece of jade. Since Hansen knew nothing about jewelry, he did not know what it was. Mom, where did this pendant come from? Hansen looked to his mother, puzzled. Luo Sulen had a complex look on her face. She hesitated and said, when your father gave to me, he said your great-grandpa left this behind and that if you ran into any trouble, you can take this to Starry Group and seek help from the Nings. Seek help from Starry Group and the Nings. Hansen almost thought there was something wrong with his ears. For the longest time, he thought Starry Group was responsible for his father's death. However, his father said he could go to the Nings with this pendant, which was simply unbelievable. I also felt it was fishy, so no matter how hard it was, I did not go to Starry Group, said Luo Sulen with a wry smile. Hansen nodded. If it were him, he would have chosen to do the same. No matter what, Starry Group was an important suspect in killing his father. There was no way he would ask for their help. The whole thing was so odd that Hansen was confused. He did not know what was the relationship between his father and Starry Group, or why his father had said that. However, everything told Hansen that his father's death was not as simple as he thought it was. Putting the pendant down, Hansen took the diary from the box. Although the style of the diary book was old, it did not look like it was used often. Hansen opened the book and saw 2 words which made his pupils contract. Super Gene. Hansen's heart was racing. He thought no one knew about the existence of Super Gene. He had searched on the Skynet and the platform of the Special Squad, but he had found absolutely nothing on super creatures or super gene. Seeing these 2 words on the diary book, Hansen had a million thoughts at once. The book and the writing seemed to be quite old. Are they also left by my great-grandpa? How come he wrote something like this? Does he mean the same thing that I know of? Hansen quickly scanned the pages of the diary. However, except for the first page, there was no other words on the diary. All the other pages were blank. Someone else also circled the 2 words in red ink and wrote a question mark. Han Sen was so shocked that he only noticed it a while later. What does this mean? Is someone questioning whether Super Gene exists? Han Sen frowned and looked to Luo Sulan, wishing his mother had an answer. However, Luo Sulan sighed and said, "Your father did not say anything but that these were left by your great-grandpa Han Jingjai. Keep them with you, maybe they will become handy later." Han Sen nodded and put away the 3 items. They might explain his father's death, and he was the only one who could find out about the truth. Han Sen felt more puzzled since his mother showed him everything. Originally, he only wanted to find out whether Starry Group was behind his father's accident. However, everything seemed to be more complicated than he had thought. Han Sen thought Starry Group must have something to do with his father's death, but his father asked his mother to go to the Nings, owners of Starry Group, before he died. It was so self-contradicting that Han Sen still could not understand what had happened. Han Sen knew it was pointless for him to worry. He had to gain more and more power in order to find out. With his current background, if he became obsessed, it was more likely he would get killed than find out about the truth. After staying at home for a few days, Han Sen returned to Blackhawk and started to prepare for hunting a super creature. Han Sen still had not completed the 3rd phase of Heresy Mantra. It looked like he could not make a breakthrough in a short amount of time. All that was left to do was to fill his sacred Geno points up. Han Sen planned to gain more sacred Geno points while looking for a super creature. Since Han Sen has no method to kill the phoenix-like super creature, he planned to leave it alone for the time being. Initially, Han Sen wanted to go to the Jade Dragon Mountains alone, hunting sacred blood creatures while looking for super creatures. Maybe he would run into something like the Golden Growler. However, before Han Sen left, he saw the sign he told with Lu Weinen on the crooked tree outside the steel armor shelter. Last time, Lu Weinen took him to find the Beetle Knight. Han Sen had agreed to give Lu Weinen a 20% cut, but he never saw Lu Weinen again. Unexpectedly, Han Sen found the sign at this point. Han Sen arrived as Dollar at the time and place indicated by Lu Weinen on a note, and saw Lu Weinen next to a creek in a mountain nearby. "Last time I did not find you. I finished eating the sacred blood meat, so I could only offer you money or finish a task for you. I will try my best," said Han Sen. Lu Weinen looked at Han Sen in surprise and said, "Brother, you really killed those 2 sacred blood creatures. I went there again and saw nothing. I thought those 2 creatures had left." "I killed them," Han Sen said calmly. "Brother, I don't want your money. I happen to have something that I want to ask you and wonder if you could do me a favor." Lu Weinen hesitated and said, "Tell me. I'm not sure if I could help though." Han Sen frowned secretly. He preferred to give money, which would be less troublesome. "So, I have a few friends who want to go to Jade Dragon Mountains. However, the place is obviously too dangerous for me. If you have time, could you take them into the mountains? You could take my 20% cut as the reward, or I can pay you more," said Lu Weinen helplessly. Han Sen packed and went to the agreed place to meet the group of people. Lu said he could hire Dollar to guide our way. "We thought he was bragging and it turns out to be you for real." Chen Zichen squinted his eyes, looking Han Sen up and down. It seemed he was very interested in Dollar. "I am just a normal person who takes the money and does the job," Han Sen said casually. "Indeed, if you are not a normal person, you will not be staying in First God's Sanctuary until now," Chen Nangsing, the skinny guy next to Chen Zichen, said. Han Sen did not pay him any mind and said quietly, "When do you plan to go?" "Now," said Chen Zichen. Han Sen did not say anything and led the group riding Meowth. Only the 2 brothers, Chen Zichen and Chen Nangsing, were evolvers with their sacred blood Geno points maxed out, while the other 4 were their followers and only evolved with their mutant Geno points maxed out. Naturally, they were much weaker than Chen Zichen and Chen Nangsing. However, even the brothers did not scare Han Sen. Even if they were strong, they had just evolved and had not learned the Hyper Geno arts designed for evolvers, so there was no way they could beat Han Sen. Everyone had heard about Dollar. However, as evolvers, they did not think too highly of him. Chen Zichen was very interested in Dollar and tried to test how strong Han Sen was. However, Han Sen did not show anything, but only guided the way. It was not the first time Han Sen had come to Jade Dragon Mountains, but he became careful immediately after he entered the mountains, in case there was a super creature. "Dollar, don't worry. Go ahead, and it's fine if there were several sacred blood creatures. In that case, we could all enjoy barbecue tonight," Chen Nangsing said sarcastically, displeased with Han Sen's low speed. Having marched for another half a day, Han Sen suddenly stopped and looked at the layering mountains in front of him with delight. "Why did you stop?" Chen Nangsing frowned and asked. "I'm afraid we cannot go further." Han Sen paused and said, The group of people looked ahead and did not see anything. Chen Nangsing said impatiently, "There are no creatures or anything wrong. How come we cannot go? If I'm not wrong, this should be a life lotus ahead of us." Han Sen pointed at the mountains and said, "What? You're saying there is a nest?" Everyone became excited and looked at the mountains in front of them. However, they could not tell why it was a life lotus. There are plenty of mountains like this in this area, and those mountains looked nothing special to them. "Are you sure there is a nest?" Qin Jiming asked Han Sen incredulously. "It's only a guess. I am not sure," said Han Sen casually. However, he was certain inwardly that there must be a nest. Han Sen was calculating how he could break the egg before everyone else. It was indicated in the contract they signed that Han Sen was only responsible as a guide. When there was a creature, Han Sen could also choose to kill it. Whoever killed the creature would be its owner. It was Han Sen's only condition for taking the group into Jade Dragon Mountains, and the group agreed easily because they did not believe as an unevolved person Dollar could kill any creature before they did. In a life lotus, the slopes were extremely steep. Without wings, people would have to climb the cliffs. Han Sen also put away Meowth and followed the group. If it was an ordinary place, Han Sen would have chosen to rush inside a moment ago. However, in Jade Dragon Mountains, he was not sure if there were additional creatures, so he chose to take his time. "Careful," Han Sen, who was walking behind them, exclaimed. The group were shocked and quickly looked to Han Sen. Han Sen was pointing at the sky, so they looked up and saw a bird with 3 feet coming at them like a piece of dark cloud. "Clear," Chen Zichen shouted and summoned a spear more than 6 feet long. He stepped on the cliff and stabbed the spear at the bird. The rest of the group quickly dodged. They dug their fingers into the rocks and quickly climbed up. Han Sen was surprised. Although they had high fitness levels, they must have practiced special martial arts in order to achieve this. It was not hard to drive one's fingers through the rock, but it was difficult to do that repeatedly even for evolvers. Chen Zichen made his first strike with the spear, but the bird had already risen higher. When Chen Zichen started to fall, the birds then clawed at him. Initially, Han Sen thought Chen Zichen must have sacred blood wings to make such a daring move. However, Chen Zichen did not have wings. As the bird was about to get him, he suddenly turned his body around in the air and moved 3 feet away from the bird's claws without touching anything. Then Chen Zichen raised his spear and stabbed at the bird's wing again. The bird was cunning enough to dodge the spear one more time. Watching Chen Zichen fighting the bird in the air and stepping on the air repeatedly, Han Sen felt he was looking at 2 birds. When Chen Zichen stepped on the air the 3rd time, he started to fall. However, he only landed briefly before he threw himself into the air again. Han Sen was more than surprised. The footwork that allowed Chen Zichen to step on the air 3 times was incredible. Without wings, Han Sen could not achieve that. The footwork was not even recorded in Panorama. Han Sen wondered who Chen Zichen was to be a master of such footwork. Suddenly, the bird screeched and landed on the top of the mountain. Next to the bird stood a person. 7 twists of the Chens is impressive indeed, the person said, watching Chen Zichen who had landed on the ground. The entire group were shocked. Chen Zichen stared at the person and asked, "Since you know about 7 twists, you should be a family friend of the Chens. Why did you attack us?" "My name is Yi Yufeng. I don't think you have heard my name. I am a student at the headquarters of Ares Martial Hall, and I know your family well," said the guy in black armor. "So you are from the Ares Martial Hall. No wonder you dared to attack us. I need to question Huang Fuxing Cheng when I get back," Chen Nangsing said, annoyed. Yi Yufeng said calmly, "Ares Martial Hall is the Chen's friend. I did not mean to attack you, but to appreciate 7 twists and to save you." "Save us?" Chen Zichen asked. "You must be going to the nest. To be honest with you, I have already been there. Unfortunately, the creature inside was too strong. I almost lost my life and gained nothing, which is why I am giving you a reminder," said Yi Yufeng. "We appreciate it, but this is our business and has nothing to do with Ares Martial Hall." Chen Nangsing snorted and walked toward the entrance of the nest. Chen Zichen glanced at Yi Yufeng and followed Chen Nangsing. "I did not realize the famous dollar belongs to the Chens." Yi Yufeng checked Han Sen out. Their faces were both covered in armor, so neither of them could see the other. "If that is the case, you better not enter the nest. Otherwise, you might lose your life for some money." Yi Yufeng smiled and said, "I'm afraid you don't know that all 6 of them are evolvers. Do you think the creature could hurt 6 evolvers?" Han Sen probed. Yi Yufeng smiled and said, "No need to probe. Even if I tell you, you would probably not believe me. Evolvers like the Chen brothers could never hurt the creature even if there were 60 of them. If they were slower, maybe they would lose their lives there. As for you, you better not go in." When Han Sen arrived at the entrance, the group of people had entered for a while. They walked very fast. It seemed that they were worried Yi Yufeng would break the egg before they did. Han Sen looked inside and sat on the rock next to the entrance along with Yi Yufeng. Aren't you going inside? Yi Yufeng looked at Han Sen in surprise. Didn't you say it's dangerous and I'd better not go? Han Sen asked. Yi Yufeng was dazed for a while before he smiled and said, I heard a lot about dollar, but just found out how interesting you are. When Han Sen was about to reply, he suddenly heard messy footsteps from the nest. Han Sen quickly looked down. Shortly, people started to climb out of the entrance. The first who came out was Chen Nangsing, who was as pale as a piece of paper. His armor was slashed open either by a weapon or a claw. Blood was oozing. Behind Chen Nangsing, Chen Zichen also climbed up. He looked slightly better than Chen Nangsing. His armor was also broken, but it was not as severe as Chen Nangsing's injury. You guys are more impressive than I thought. You both lasted quite long in the nest, said Yi Yufeng. Is that a sarcasm? Chen Nangsing was in a terrible mood. Hearing Yi Yufeng's words, he bristled and wanted to hit him, but was stopped by Chen Zichen. I truly admire you and did not mean to be sarcastic. I almost died in a couple of seconds, while you lasted for about 15 minutes and you are still alive, said Yi Yufeng seriously. Knowing Yi Yufeng was sincere, Chen Nangsing was less angry. However, thinking of the 4 evolvers who had sacrificed in the nest, he sat down depressed, his lips twitching. What is the creature? How come it's so strong? That creature is invisible. Han Sen did not understand what they meant by not being able to see the creature. It was not invisible, but too fast. It was running all around among the cells in the nest. We could not see what it was at all, said Yi Yufeng. He paused and continued, the only thing I know is that it is a quadruped beast. Chen Zichen must have a fitness index above 30. Since even he could not tell what the creature looked like, the creature was probably much faster than a sacred blood creature. If it was a super creature, then this was great news to Han Sen. However, thinking about the creature's speed, Han Sen frowned. Using both Heresy Mantra and Overload, Han Sen's fitness level should be a bit stronger than Chen Zichen. However, if Chen Zichen could not keep up with the creature, Han Sen probably couldn't either. I wonder if you are interested in hunting the creature with me. Yi Yufeng suddenly said, attracting the attention of Chen Zichen, Chen Nangsing and Han Sen. You know how to kill it. Chen Nangsing stared at Yi Yufeng and asked, I have a method, but I can't do it alone. Yi Yufeng then looked to Han Sen and asked, I wonder if you have evolved, dollar. Not yet. Han Sen told the truth. That is unfortunate. If you have not evolved, you would not be fit enough to even see the creature. Even if you have evolved, without your sacred blood geno points maxed out, you will still be killed like those 4 guys. Although Yi Yufeng did not say it directly, he implied that Han Sen was not strong enough to collaborate with them. What if I choose to go down? Han Sen asked Yi Yufeng calmly. I meant well, but if you want to commit suicide, I will not stop you. In fact, if you choose to go inside, you could buy us more time, which would do us more good than harm. Yi Yufeng smiled and said, What's your method? Chen Nangsing asked Yi Yufeng hastily. It is pretty simple. The creature is only too fast for us to even hit it. In fact, if we could hit it, it would be easy for us to kill it, said Yi Yufeng. Cut the crap. We all know that, Chen Nangsing sneered. You have a way for us to hit it. Chen Zichen stared at Yi Yufeng and asked. Yi Yufeng said quietly, of course. But before I tell you, we must determine how to divide our gains, so that Ares Marshall Hall and the Chens could still be friends. How do you propose we divide the gains? Chen Zichen asked Yi Yufeng. The beast soul of the sacred blood creature would belong to whoever killed it. We will divide the meat equally and I get to break the egg. Yi Yufeng said his plan. Obviously, the plan did not include Han Sen. Neither Yi Yufeng nor the Chen brothers think of Han Sen as either opponent or partner. They all thought all Han Sen could do was to distract the sacred blood beast and buy them some time before he was killed. Yi Yufeng then summoned a ball of black smoke. The smoke was moving constantly like a sand clock that repeated itself. This is my sacred blood add-on beast soul, time curse. It could be used on any creature and slow it down. Of course, although it was a sacred blood beast soul, it is not very effective on a sacred blood creature. However, it can still slow the sacred blood creature down a little bit. What do you think of my idea? Yi Yufeng asked, pointing at his beast soul, time curse. It depends on how much slower the creature would get, Chen Zichen said, staring at time curse. Yi Yufeng took time curse back and determined the exact action plan with the 2 brothers. Then, the 3 of them entered the nest together. Han Sen followed them down, and they did not pay him any mind. Maybe Han Sen could distract the sacred blood creature for a while, so they did not stop him. Shortly, Han Sen saw the broken green gold wall and vast space filled with different cells. The cells crisscrossed like the nest of spiders. Outside the green gold wall, blood was spilled everywhere. However, they never saw the bodies of the 4 evolvers with mutant geno points maxed out. Chen Zichen, among us, you are the only one who could dodge a fatal attack from the creature. So I'm afraid you must go first and lure the creature out so that I could use the time curse. Yi Yufeng stopped walking and said. Chen Zichen nodded slightly and shapeshifted into a monkey-like creature. Walking to the broken green gold wall, he crawled into the underground space of the nest nimbly. Yi Yufeng and Chen Nangxing watched Chen Zichen closely, and so did Han Sen. He was curious to know what the creature looked like. Yi Yufeng had agreed to be the bait before they came down. If Yi Yufeng did not need a person acting as the bait, he would not have chosen to collaborate with them. Obviously, Yi Yufeng did not have the ability to dodge the creature's attacks while using Time Curse. When Chen Zichen just walked into the space, he suddenly saw a black shadow rushing toward him from the back of a cell nearby. The shadow became so sudden and fast. Han Sen had been paying full attention, but all he could see was a blur. He felt like it was something between a wolf and a fox. Chen Zichen was indeed very strong. Under such critical conditions, he quickly turned around in an impossible angle and protected all the vital parts of his body. The shadow only scraped his arm, but even so, it still managed to make him bleed. After landing, the shadow did not even pause before it jumped at Chen Zichen. Here goes, exclaimed Yi Yufeng. The time curse took the creature in a whirl. The time curse covered a large scope, so unless the creature retreated, it was impossible for it to avoid the beast's soul's impact. Suddenly, a black lightning bolt slowed down. The group then saw what the creature looked like. It was a black wolf larger than an ordinary one, with the size of an adult tiger. Kill it! Both Yi Yufeng and Chen Nangxing rushed to the creature immediately, trying to kill it together with Chen Zichen. Han Sen shapeshifted into the bloody slayer and came forward as well. That will be all for now. I hope you find this story interesting. Leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss the next part of this story. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.